Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in.
Okay, happy Saturday everybody. I hope you're all enjoying a restful weekend. It is the weekend, so I will try to keep today's video light. To begin today's video, we are going to move through developments from this week related to China's energy policy and trends. We will start with the positive, then move on to the more mixed news. US outlet Bloomberg reports yesterday, Friday, that China's world-leading clean energy boom has passed another benchmark, with its wind and solar capacity surpassing a target set by General Secretary Xi Jinping almost 6 years earlier than planned. According to a statement from the National Energy Administration on Friday, China added 25 gigawatts of turbines and panels in July, expanding total capacity to 1,206 gigawatts. Xi set the goal in December 2020 with at least 1,200 gigawatts from the clean energy sources by 2030. Bloomberg explains that China, quote, by far outspends the rest of the world when it comes to clean energy, and has repeatedly broken wind and solar installation records in recent years. The rapid growth has helped lead to declines in coal power generation this summer, and may mean the world's biggest polluter has already reached peak emissions well before its 2030 target. End quote. Still, solar and wind have only generated about 14% of electricity in China so far this year, and more work will be required to grow that share and continue to squeeze out fossil fuels. As the Bloomberg quote just mentioned, China still remains the world's biggest polluter. Meanwhile, Chinese outlet Jiemian, in a report this week, has detailed the 5 nuclear power projects approved at a Monday State Council executive meeting. The projects are in Jiangsu, Shandong, Guangdong, Zhejiang, and Guangxi, and involve 11 new units for a likely investment over the next 5 years of 220 billion yuan. The construction cycle of a nuclear power unit from approval to completion is generally 56 to 60 months, with an investment of about 50 billion yuan per unit. From 2019 to 2021, China approved 4 nuclear power units each year. In 2022 and 2023, China approved 10 nuclear power units each year. The outlet added that on the 11th of August, the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China and the State Council officially released the so-called Opinions on Accelerating the Comprehensive Green Transition of Economic and Social Development, clearly stating the acceleration of the construction of clean energy bases such as wind power, solar power in the northwest, hydropower in the southwest, offshore wind power, and coastal nuclear power. This is the first time that a top-level national document has clearly stated the acceleration of the construction of coastal nuclear power clean energy bases. Guolian securities analyst He Zhaohui said in a Tuesday note, quote, the uptick in industry sentiment coupled with the increase in new nuclear power project approvals is poised to drive growth for equipment suppliers and operators. End quote. Now, while we're on the topic of nuclear power, last month the Washington-based Information Technology and Innovation Foundation, ITIF, published a long report called How Innovative is China in Nuclear Power? The report argues that, quote, though China built upon a foreign base of technology, it has become the world's leading proponent of nuclear energy. Chinese firms are well ahead of their Western peers, supported by a whole-of-government strategy that provides extensive financing and systemic coordination. End quote. The report makes 8 key claims. 1. China intends to build 150 new nuclear reactors between 2020 and 2035, with 27 currently under construction, and the average construction timeline for each reactor about 7 years, far faster than most other nations. 2. China has commenced operation of the world's first 4th-generation nuclear reactor, for which China asserts it developed some 90% of the technology. 3. China is leading in the development and launch of cost-competitive small modular reactors, SMRs. 4. Overall, analysts assess that China likely stands 10 to 15 years ahead of the United States in its ability to deploy 4th-generation nuclear reactors at scale. 5. China's innovation strengths in nuclear power pertain especially to organizational, systemic, and incremental innovation. Many fourth-generation nuclear technologies have been known for years, but China's state-backed approach excels at fielding them. 6. Analysts assess America and China are likely at par when it comes to efforts to develop nuclear fusion technologies. But they warn that China's demonstrated ability to deploy fission reactors at scale gives it an advantage when fusion comes online. 7. Looking narrowly at scientific publications on nuclear energy, China ranks first in the H-index, a commonly used metric measuring the scholarly impact of journal publications. And 8. From 2008 through 2023, China's share of all nuclear patents increased from 1.3% to 13.4%, and the country leads in the number of nuclear fusion patent applications. For policymakers in Washington, Brussels, or other major Western capitals seeking to compete with China in this space, the report is certainly a sobering read. Now, I certainly hope some viewers will stop complaining that China Update only covers negative stories. This channel covers all relevant and salient stories, whether positive, negative, or mixed. Next up, for the energy-related updates, in a new report published this week, Finland-based the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air reports that regulators have permitted only 9 gigawatts of new coal power plants in the first half of 2024, down 83% from the prior year during the same period. Now, this is a positive development from a climate perspective on the face of it, but it also remains the case that there is still a lot of plants under construction, and the government plans to bring 80 more gigawatts of coal-fired capacity online in 2024. The report finds that, quote, following the surge in coal power permits exceeding 100 gigawatts annually in 2022 and 2023, the current decline in coal power activity is further reflected in the reduction of new and revived coal power proposals, totaling 37 gigawatts in early 2024, down from 60 gigawatts in early 2023. Despite these encouraging signs, significant challenges persist. In the first half of 2024, construction began on over 41 gigawatts of coal projects, nearly equaling the total that started construction during all of 2022 and constituting more than 90% of global new coal construction activities. Moreover, the government's goal of bringing 80 gigawatts of coal-fired capacity online in 2024 indicates a potential increase in project completions in the latter half of the year, from 8 gigawatts commissioned in the first half of 2024. End quote. Next up, we need to cover a quick update related to the housing sector to supplement our deep dive into housing from earlier this week. This week, Chinese financial media outlet The Economic Observer published a piece called "This Time the Real Estate Market Adjustment is Different." It was an interview with Ning, Deputy Dean and Professor of Finance at the Shanghai Advanced Institute of Finance, Shanghai Jiaotong University. The piece, along with the interview, is quite disquieting. Quote, currently, China's economy is facing a series of new challenges. How long will the adjustment caused by the collapse of the real estate bubble last? How should it be addressed? And how should the balance between maintaining economic growth and mitigating risks be managed? On August 16th, with these questions in mind, the Economic Observer interviewed Ning. He believes that the sustained adjustment in China's real estate market is indeed different from the past, and predicts that it will take at least another 3 to 5 years. This adjustment is not only due to market cycle changes, but also the combined effects of an aging population, slowing urbanization, and economic transformation. Ning, known as Mr. Bubble for his book The Rigid Bubble, warned that the bubble in China's real estate market is gradually bursting, and the chain reactions from this burst could be more complex and far-reaching than we imagine. This is because China is undergoing an unprecedented, profound transformation. In this transformation, the adjustment of the economic structure, changes in the demographic structure, and the rebuilding of market confidence will collectively shape a future full of challenges and opportunities. End quote. Next up, we have one more development to cover, but just quickly, if you're enjoying this special weekend edition of China Update, don't forget to hit the like button. Liking, sharing, and subscribing is a tremendous help. It's only 2 clicks of the mouse, but it is one of the best ways to help me and the channel grow. Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are also in the description below for those who want to help keep the channel financially sustainable. Thank you so much. Next up, and finally for today, on Wednesday in New York, high-ranking US officials had a meeting with the Dalai Lama, provoking an angry response from Beijing. Uzra Zeya, the Under-Secretary of State for Civilian Security, Democracy and Human Rights, traveled to New York to meet the Dalai Lama. During the meeting, she conveyed President Biden's greetings and emphasized, quote, "the United States' unwavering support for the Tibetan community," end quote. She was accompanied by Kelly Razok, a special assistant to President Biden and the National Security Council's Senior Director for Democracy and Human Rights. China has long accused the Dalai Lama, who has lived in India since fleeing Tibet in 1959, of advocating for Tibet's independence from Chinese rule. The Dalai Lama has consistently pursued, quote, genuine autonomy, end quote, for Tibet. Tibet was annexed by the People's Republic of China in 1951. In the past, the region of Tibet has been an independent state and has also been incorporated into Han as well as non-Han ruled Chinese empires. As the current Dalai Lama approaches his 90th birthday, Beijing leadership has intensified efforts to influence the selection of his successor. To believers, the Dalai Lama is the 14th in a lineage believed to represent manifestations of the Bodhisattva of compassion, tracing back to the late 1300s. He is seen as both a religious and, to Beijing's concern, a political leader for the Tibetan people. Chinese officials have asserted that any succession process must comply with PRC law. Indeed, in the past, Beijing has even passed laws which seek to regulate reincarnation. This potentially could lead to the recognition of competing Dalai Lamas, one chosen by the current Dalai Lama's followers and the exiled Tibetan community, and another picked and endorsed by Beijing. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a great weekend, have a restful weekend, and I will see you all on Monday.